Every day at exactly 4:15 p.m., the billionaire's son, Ethan, sat on the floor by the tall window like it was a rule written inside his body. He lifted one finger, pressed it to the glass, and whispered the same words. Slow, careful, like he was afraid the words would break. Mommy again there. Richard Harrington used to walk past him like he did not hear it because hearing it meant remembering and remembering meant pain he had locked away for years. The doctors told him it is just repetition. Ignore it. Do not feed it. The nannies pulled Ethan back, wiped the fingerprints off the window and said, "Come on, Ethan. Toys, snacks, cartoons, anything to make him stop pointing." But Ethan never stopped. One afternoon, the new maid, Maria, came in carrying a laundry basket, and she heard that sentence clear as a bell in a quiet house. Mommy again there. She looked down at Ethan's hand and her throat tightened because his pointing finger was red, like he had been pressing it too hard for too long, like he had been begging with his skin. Maria did not say, "Stop." She did not drag him away. She knelt beside him, slowed her breathing, and followed his finger through the glass. Not toward the pretty part of the garden, not the flowers the staff trimmed, toward the back corner, the place nobody used, where the bushes grew thick and the ground looked untouched. Maria leaned closer. Then she saw it, a small shape behind the leaves, still watching, waiting, a child, a little girl. And when the girl lifted her face, Maria felt her stomach drop because the girl looked like Ethan. Not similar, not close, like Ethan. Ethan whispered again, almost crying now. "Mommy, again, there." And behind them in the hallway, Richard Harrington's voice cut through the silence. "Maria," he said sharp, "why are you standing there with my son?" Maria turned with the laundry basket against her hip. Ethan was on the floor by the tall hallway window, finger pressed to the glass, pointing at the far corner of the garden. "He spoke," Maria said, keeping her voice low. "I heard him." Richard looked at Ethan's hand, the red tip of that finger. Like the boy had been pressing too hard for too long. Ethan whispered, "Mommy." Again, there the doctors had told Richard to ignore the phrase, to treat it like a stuck habit. Richard had tried, but the words followed him like a shadow. "Finish your work," he said. "Do not keep him in that spot." Maria swallowed. "Sir, I'm not keeping him. He chooses it." Richard's eyes snapped to her. "Warning. This is my house. Do your job." "Yes, sir," Maria said. He walked away without touching Ethan, without a question, without even a glance at the garden. The hallway felt smaller after he left. Ethan did not move. His eyes stayed locked outside, serious and fixed, not wandering like a bored child. He looked like someone waiting for a late bus day after day, never giving up. Maria followed his finger line through the glass. The garden path near the door was neat, but the back corner was a tangle of bushes and old trees. No one worked there. It looked forgotten. She thought she had seen a face there earlier, just for a second. She told herself it could have been nothing, but Ethan kept pointing like it mattered more than food, more than toys, more than sleep. "Ethan," she whispered, "are you scared?" He did not answer. He only repeated the words, and his voice shook at the end. Maria lowered herself to the floor beside him. She did not pull his hand down. She sat close enough that he could feel her there, and she stayed quiet. After a while, Ethan's shoulders dropped. His breathing softened. Maria watched his finger. How it never drifted. How it stayed locked on one place like a sign. She had been warned on her first day. Mr. Harrington likes silence. Do not ask questions. Maria needed the job, but she also knew what it felt like to speak and not be heard. Ethan was still trying. Night came. The house settled into its usual quiet. Maria finished her tasks and walked the upstairs hall to her small room, but a restless sound from Ethan's door made her stop. The door was not fully closed. A small lamp lit the room. Ethan sat up in bed, eyes open, staring at his hands. His lips moved without sound. Maria stood at the doorway. "Ethan, do you need water?" He turned his head. When he saw her, his face eased. He lifted his hand and pointed toward the hallway. "The window," Maria whispered. Ethan nodded once, quick and sure. Maria stepped in and offered her hand. Ethan did not take it. Instead, he held the cuff of her sleeve tight, like he was afraid she would vanish if he let go. They walked out together, slow, bare feet on the carpet. At the hallway window, Ethan went straight back to his place on the floor. He pressed his finger to the glass again. Soft, then hard. "Mommy," he said, voice thin. Again, "There." Maria leaned in. The garden lights near the door glowed, but the back corner was mostly shadow. The bushes looked thicker at night, like they were hiding things. Her eyes adjusted. At first, she saw nothing. Then, something moved low and quick, like a child crawling. Maria held her breath. A head lifted behind the bushes. A little girl. Her face was smudged with dirt. Her hair was tangled and stuck to her cheeks. She did not look surprised to be there. She looked like she belonged to the dark. Ethan made a small sound close to a laugh and leaned forward until his forehead touched the glass. Maria lifted her palm to the window. Not waving, not calling out, she just let the girl see her hand calm and open. The girl did not run. She stood up enough for Maria to see how thin she was, how her shirt hung loose, how her knees looked scraped. Then the girl raised her own hand, and she pointed back straight at Ethan like she was answering him. Behind Maria, a quiet click sounded, a door latch turning. Maria turned. Richard Harrington stood at the end of the hallway in a robe, hair messy, eyes tired, as if he had been pulled out of sleep by something he did not want to face. He followed Maria's gaze to the window, to the corner, to the small figure outside. Richard took one slow step closer. The girl moved into a patch of light, and Maria felt her skin go tight because the girl looked like Ethan. The same eyes, the same mouth, like a mirror with dirt on it. Richard's hand lifted, then dropped to his side like his body forgot what to do. Maria saw his fingers shaking. Small, quick shakes he could not hide. His eyes went wet, not with tears falling, but with a shine of pain that looked old. He stared at the girl's face as if he had seen it before, in a memory he never told anyone. His lips moved once, like he tried to say a name and failed. Ethan stayed pressed to the glass, breathing, pointing. Maria felt trapped between them. A stranger inside a moment that could change everything. Right now, Richard's face drained, his lips opened. No sound came. Ethan pressed his finger harder and whispered, "There." Richard finally spoke, barely a breath. No, that can't be. Ethan turned his head toward his father, and for the first time he used a new word, clear and careful, like he had saved it. Sister, sister, Ethan said again. Soft, like the word had been waiting inside him. Richard Harrington moved closer to the window, slow as if one wrong step could break the moment. The little girl outside stood half hidden by leaves, her thin arms stiff at her sides. She stared at Ethan first, then at Richard like she was trying to decide if he was danger. Richard lifted a hand, palm open. His voice came out rough. Please, he whispered. Ethan made a low sound and pressed his forehead to the window. Sis, he said, and it sounded like fear and relief mixed together. Richard leaned forward. Do not run, he said, still too quiet for the girl to hear, but the sharp edge in his tone slipped out. The girl flinched. Maria raised her hand toward Richard, not to command him, but to calm him. Sir, softer, she whispered. Richard froze, then nodded once. Maria spoke toward the glass. Gentle little one, nobody will hurt you, okay? If you are hungry, I can bring food. The girl did not speak. She only looked at Maria's mouth, then at Ethan's face again, like she understood more than she wanted to show. Then she turned, pushed through the bushes, and ran. Leaves snapped, branches shook. In seconds, she vanished into the dark corner of the yard. Ethan hit the glass with his palm. Once, then again. There, he cried. His body started rocking fast. His breathing turned uneven. He made a sound that cut Maria's chest. The sound of a child losing something again. Maria dropped to the floor beside him. She did not grab his arms. She placed one hand on his back, light, steady. I saw her, she said. You are not wrong. I saw her, too. Ethan's eyes watered. He kept rocking. Sis, he whispered. Then he squeezed Maria's sleeve like he needed an anchor. Richard stood close to the window, staring at the bushes. His face looked pale. His hand pressed against the wall as if his legs forgot how to hold him. How long? He asked, voice low. Maria kept her eyes on Ethan. Tonight was the first time I saw her clear, she said. But Ethan has been pointing to that spot every day. Richard swallowed hard. He looked down at Ethan like he was seeing him for the first time. Get him to bed, Richard said. The words came out firm, but fear sat under them. Maria helped Ethan stand. Ethan pulled back toward the window, crying without full tears, like the feeling was too big for his body. She will come again, Maria whispered. We will not lose her. Ethan looked at her face, then nodded and let her lead him. In Ethan's room, Maria kept the lamp low and sat beside him. She held his hand until his breathing slowed. Ethan whispered sis once more, then fell asleep with his fingers still curled around hers. When Maria stepped into the hallway, Richard was waiting by the door. Come, he said. Now they went downstairs to the study. Richard shut the door. He did not sit. He paced once then stopped facing Maria. If you tell the staff, he said, they will talk and she will stop coming. I will not talk, Maria said. But I will not call my boy crazy either. You think she looks like him, Richard said. She does, Maria answered. Same eyes, same face, like they are made from the same picture. Richard turned away, rubbed his forehead, then opened a drawer, and pulled out a thick folder, papers, old hospital forms, notes, a death certificate. He set it on the desk like it was too heavy. "My wife died the day Ethan was born," he said, his voice dropped. "After that, I signed anything they put in front of me. I did not ask questions. I was broken." He flipped through the pages fast, then stopped and held one up to the desk lamp. "Look," he said. Maria leaned in. 2 dates did not match. 2 signatures sat where one should be. A line looked scratched out, then written again. Richard's mouth tightened. "For years, I kept a doubt locked away," he whispered. "Because if I opened it, I would fall apart." Richard shut the folder and pressed his hands on the desk. "Tomorrow," he said, "you take Ethan to the window at the same time like always. Do not change his routine." Maria nodded. "And if she comes," she asked, "what will you do?" Richard stared at the garden through the glass doors of the study. "I will not shout," he said. "I will not chase her. I will follow from a distance." Maria's voice stayed steady. "We also need answers," she said. "Not guesses." Richard turned back to the desk and picked up his phone. His thumb hovered over the screen. "I need someone outside my world," he said. "Someone who can dig into the hospital, staff names, records, a private investigator," Maria said. Richard gave a small nod. "Tonight," he said, "I will pay whatever it costs." Maria took a breath. "And Ethan," she said, "you must start listening to him, not just watching him." Richard's eyes tightened like the truth stung. He did not argue. He only spoke. "If I am wrong, my son has been suffering for nothing. If I am right," he paused, "then my daughter has been out there alone." Maria felt her throat close. She thought of the girl's dirty shirt, her quick steps, her fear. Richard opened the study door. "Rest," he said. "Tomorrow we watch together." That night, Maria lay awake in her small room, listening to the house settle. Near midnight, a faint scrape came from the yard like feet on gravel. She went to the window and saw nothing, only the dark bushes. But on the path below, a tiny shoe print sat in the mud, fresh, leading toward the swing behind the trees. The shoe print in the mud was small and fresh. Maria stared at it from her window for a long time. Someone had been near the back corner again, close to the place Ethan pointed at every day. In the morning, Ethan was already on the hallway floor by the tall window. He pressed his finger to the glass and whispered, "Mommy, again, there." Maria knelt beside him. "I hear you," she said. "I'm not walking past you." Richard Harrington stepped into the hall. He looked like he had not slept. He did not greet Maria. He only looked through the glass toward the bushes. At 4:15 p.m., Ethan's finger lifted again straight to the same spot. Maria sat beside him. Richard stayed a few steps back, trying to be quiet, trying not to scare whatever was out there. The bushes shifted. A small face appeared between leaves. Ethan's mouth moved. "Sis," he said, soft but clear. The girl stepped into a thin line of light, thin shoulders, dirty shirt, careful eyes. She looked at Ethan first, like he was the reason she came. Maria lifted her palm to the glass. Slow, calm. The girl lifted her hand too, matching Maria. Richard took one step forward. The girl froze, then turned and ran, pushed through the bushes. Gone. Ethan hit the window once and rocked fast, hands over his ears. He made a sound Maria had never heard from him. Not loud, but full of hurt. Maria pulled him close, steady. She came, she whispered. You were right. You were right. Richard stood behind them silent. His voice finally came out. Sister. Maria looked up. He knows her, she said. In his way, he knows her. Richard went to the study and returned with an old folder. He opened it on the floor right there in the hall like he could not wait another second. My wife died when Ethan was born, he said. I signed papers and stopped thinking. I didn't ask questions. Maria glanced at the forms. Some lines were scratched out. Dates looked uneven. 2 signatures sat where one should be. Richard tapped the page with a shaking finger. This looks wrong, he said. I didn't want to see it. Maria kept her voice simple. We need proof, she said. And we need to be gentle with that girl. Richard nodded once. I hired a private investigator last night, he said. He's digging into the hospital. Quietly, Ethan lifted his head from Maria's shoulder and whispered, Sis, like he was reminding them both. Maria took a breath. Tomorrow we go outside, she said. No chasing. We just show we mean no harm. That night, Maria barely slept. She kept seeing the girl's eyes and the way she stopped when Ethan spoke. She packed a small bag before noon. Sandwiches, fruit, a bottle of water, and a soft towel. At 4:15 p.m., Ethan stood by the window again. Maria held out her hand. Come, she whispered. Show me. Ethan took her hand without fighting. Richard followed behind them, not too close. They crossed the yard and moved into the rough back corner. Leaves lay thick. Bushes scraped at their clothes. Ethan did not look around. He walked straight to the old swing. Rust sat on the chain. The rope looked worn. Ethan sat down and began to swing slow like he was returning to something he trusted. Sis, he said, eyes half closed. Maria crouched and parted 2 branches. A narrow path ran behind the bushes, pressed down by small feet. Under a low tree was a hidden space. A cloth cover, a flattened patch of ground, a plastic bottle, and a child's sweater stained and thin. Maria covered her mouth. She's been sleeping here, she whispered. Richard stared, his hands clenched, then opened again like he wanted to fix everything in one breath and knew he could not. A twig snapped. Maria turned. The girl stood behind a tree watching. In daylight, she looked younger and smaller. Dirt marked her cheeks. Her eyes moved fast from Richard to Maria, then back to Ethan. Maria slowly set the food bag on the ground, then stepped back. For you, she said softly. No tricks. The girl did not speak. She watched the bag like it might bite. Richard lifted one hand, palm open, and kept the other down, showing he carried nothing. His voice shook. I'm Richard, he said. Ethan's father. The girl's face tightened. She did not run, but she did not come closer. Ethan slid off the swing and held out his hand to her, open and small. The girl hesitated, then took 2 careful steps toward him. Like a string was pulling her. She grabbed the food bag and held it tight to her chest. Maria stayed low. What is your name? She asked. The girl's lips moved, then stopped. Fear crossed her face. Richard whispered. Please. Ethan touched his chest. Ev, he said, then pointed at her. asking without pushing. The girl stared at Ethan's face. Then at the swing, then at the bedding under the tree. She swallowed hard. Her voice came out rough, like she had not used it in a long time. "Lily," she whispered. Maria felt her knees go weak. Richard made a small sound, like pain turned into air. His eyes filled and he looked away for 1 second, then back at the girl like she might vanish. Lily backed behind the tree again, but she did not run. She stayed close enough to watch Ethan return to the swing. Richard stood in that forgotten corner of his own yard, shaking because a name had just walked out of the bushes, and it was a name his wife had once loved. His phone vibrated in his pocket. One message from the investigator. "Urgent. Mr. Harrington, we found something. Your wife's file lists 2 newborns." Then it was changed. "Call me now. Do not wait. Please." Richard read the investigator's message again, then looked at Maria, his face tight. "We go inside," he said. Maria kept her eyes on Lily behind the tree, clutching the food bag like it was all she had. Ethan stood near the swing, quiet, watching her. "If we rush, she will run," Maria said. Richard nodded, forcing himself to slow down. Maria held out her hand to Ethan. Ethan took it, then lifted his other hand toward Lily, not grabbing, only offering. Lily hesitated, then tapped his fingers quick, like she was testing if he was real. They walked back to the house in small steps. Maria used the kitchen door and guided them into a small breakfast room. Lily stopped at the doorway. "You can stand there," Maria said softly. "Nobody will touch you." Lily stayed on the threshold. Maria set water and food on the floor near the door, then stepped back. Ethan sat a few feet away. Body turned toward Lily, calm. Richard pulled Maria into the pantry, leaving the door cracked so they could still see the children. "Call him," Richard said. Maria dialed the investigator and put it on speaker. The man answered fast. "Mr. Harrington," the investigator said, "I found a delivery list from that night. Your wife is listed with 2 newborns, a boy and a girl." The official file was later changed. The girl entry was removed and the page was reprinted. Richard gripped the shelf. "Who changed it?" he asked. "I don't have the name yet," the investigator said. "But one nurse keeps showing up inside logs. Marcus Hale. He left 2 days after. His address is fake. There's also a note that says transferred to Nursery B. But Nursery B did not exist that year. Someone hid movement inside the system." Richard closed his eyes. "So I wasn't wrong," he said. "No, sir," the investigator replied. "Get a lawyer and do not walk into that hospital alone." Richard ended the call and leaned against the wall. Maria spoke first. "Lily is scared and she has been alone," she said. "If we press her, she will disappear." Richard stared through the crack at the girl, eating in fast bites, eyes always moving. Ethan did not move closer, but he stayed, turned toward her like a quiet shield. "We can't let staff see her," Richard said. "I will handle the staff," Maria said. "Give her one room close to Ethan and keep it private." Richard went upstairs and opened the guest room across from Ethan's room. It was small, clean, and quiet. He set a blanket on the bed with shaking hands, then left the door open. Maria returned to Lily and held out a clean towel. "Hands," she said gently. Lily watched her, then slowly held her hands out. Maria wiped them clean without a comment. Richard came back down and crouched near the doorway, not too close. "You can sleep in a bed," he said. "You can lock the door." Lily froze. Her eyes narrowed at him, full of old fear. Maria stepped in, keeping her voice calm. "Ethan will be near," she said. "Same hallway." Lily looked at Ethan. Ethan nodded once. Lily stood up and hugged the food bag to her chest. Then she followed Maria upstairs. Ethan close behind. At the guest room door, Lily stopped. Maria pointed to the lock. "You decide," she said. Lily stepped in and shut the door. The lock clicked. Ethan sat on the carpet outside, back against the wall. He waited there like it was his job. Richard stood at the end of the hall, eyes fixed on his son. "I told myself money was enough," he whispered. Maria kept her voice steady. "You can start again," she said, "but move slow. No sharp questions." Richard nodded. "Stay close," he said to Maria. "Please." That evening, Richard brought in a lawyer through the side gate, a calm woman named Elena Voss. She read the investigator's notes, then looked at Richard. "We need a DNA test," Elena said. "Then we file to protect her and correct the record." Richard's face tightened. "If we involve officials, they might take her," he said. Elena nodded. "That risk is real, but hiding her is also risky. We do this the right way, and we do it fast." A soft step sounded in the hallway. Lily stood at the top of the stairs in a borrowed shirt, hair damp, eyes tired, but sharp. Ethan was behind her, holding her wrist, gentle. Lily did not pull away. Elena kept her hands visible. "Hi, Lily," she said. "I help kids stay safe." Lily glanced toward the back door like she wanted to run. Richard stood up too fast, then stopped himself. He kept distance, but his voice broke anyway. "No one will take you," he said. "Not again. I swear." Lily's face did not soften, but she leaned her shoulder into Ethan like he was the only promise she believed. Later that night, Maria heard a soft creak in the hallway. She opened her door and saw Lily moving toward the back stairs. Lily's eyes went hard when she saw Maria. Maria did not block her. She only spoke low. "You can leave if you want," she said, "but Ethan will wake up and think you are gone forever." Lily's lips shook. She looked past Maria toward the dark yard. A small voice came from the floor. "Sis," Ethan whispered. He had gotten up and was standing there half asleep, one hand on the wall. Lily froze. She stared at him, then slowly sat on the step and hid her face in her knees. Silent, Richard watched from the shadows, shaking. Maria watched Richard fight tears he had refused for years. The secret was no longer a thought in his head. It was a child in his house. And now Richard had to choose. Keep hiding or face the truth that could save both his children. Richard stayed at the end of the hallway, watching Lily sit on the step with her face hidden. Ethan stood beside her, sleepy, hand on the wall. Maria sat on the floor a few feet away, close enough to help, far enough to not trap her. Elena Voss spoke low. "By morning, we need a plan," she said. "A plan that keeps her safe." Richard nodded. "She tried to leave," he said. "That means running is normal for her." Maria answered. "She learned adults change their minds." She said, "We must not." Richard sat on the lower step, leaving space. Lily, he said, I did not know. I should have asked questions. I did not. Lily lifted her head. Her eyes were tired and hard. Ethan touched her elbow. Safe, he whispered, then leaned his head against her arm. Elena looked at Richard. Tomorrow we do a DNA test, she said. Private clinic. Back door. Quick swabs, then we file emergency protection. At sunrise, Maria knocked gently on Lily's door and set food on the floor. The lock clicked. Lily opened the door a little and looked at Ethan behind Maria. He held a toy car in his palm. Ethan held it out. Go, he said, then pointed at himself, then at her. Lily took the car and put it in her pocket. She nodded once. Richard drove them himself. No driver, no guards. Maria sat beside Lily. Ethan sat on her other side, close enough to touch her hand if she pulled back. The clinic was quiet. The nurse explained, cheek swabs only. No needles. Lily's fingers tightened around the toy. Maria whispered, it will not hurt. Lily nodded. The nurse swabbed Lily, then Ethan, then Richard. It was over fast. Back at the house, Richard could not work. He sat by the tall window and stared at the back corner of the garden. He remembered how many times he heard Mommy again there, and walked past like it was nothing. He slid a note under Lily's door, 3 lines. You are welcome here. You can lock your door. You can eat when you want. The waiting days moved slow. Lily stayed close to Ethan. She stayed near doorways and corners. She watched feet more than faces. Maria kept things calm around her. Richard stopped giving orders for everything. He started asking, then waiting. One evening, he sat on the carpet and read a children's book out loud, not looking for praise. Ethan listened. Lily listened from her doorway. On the 6th morning, a sealed envelope arrived. Richard held it like it could burn him. Elena came to the study. Maria stood behind Ethan. Lily hovered near the door. Richard opened the envelope. His eyes moved across the page. His face changed like pain and hope hit at the same time. Elena spoke clear. She is your daughter, she said. Lily is Ethan's twin. Ethan looked at Lily and smiled. Sis, he said. Lily cried without sound. She wiped her face fast, then grabbed Ethan's hand and held it tight. Richard sank to his knees on the rug. I'm sorry, he whispered. For every day. Lily stared at him. She did not step away. That was her first yes. Elena placed papers on the desk. Now we protect her, she said. Guardianship, identity, and a formal case to investigate the hospital. Richard signed every page. After the meeting, the investigator called. Richard listened, jaw tight, then spoke to Maria. There were 2 babies, and someone erased one. That night, a black sedan slowed outside the gate and idled. The guard called Richard, unsure. Richard checked the front camera feed and saw the car sitting there like it was waiting. Maria came in, voice low. Lily heard the phone call, she said. She thinks someone will take her upstairs. Lily had packed the toy car and a sandwich into a cloth bag. She stood by the back stairs, eyes locked on the door handle. Ethan held her wrist, not pulling, only holding on. Sis, stay, Ethan whispered. Lily shook her head. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Fear had taken her voice again. Richard stepped into view, hands open, feet slow. Nobody is taking you, he said. Not the hospital. Not the police. Not anyone. Lily stared at him like she had heard promises before. Downstairs, the guard called again. Richard turned to Maria. "Stay with them," he said. Then he walked to the study with Elena. They did not open the gate. Elena called the investigator and asked him to run the plate number. The sedan moved, turned, and drove away. Richard came back and sat on the bottom stair lower than Lily so he would not look big to her. "I don't know who that was," he said. "But you are inside and I will lock this house." Lily's shoulders shook. Ethan wrapped both arms around her waist. Lily sank onto the step and let Maria place a blanket over her knees. At last, safe. Maria felt sick. She looked at Ethan and Lily holding hands like they had done it all their lives. That evening, Maria led the twins to the garden. The old swing waited in the back corner. New ropes held it now, but it was still the same place Ethan pointed at for years. Ethan sat on it. Lily stood behind him, unsure, then pushed him slow. Ethan laughed real and free. Richard watched from the patio. Tears ran down his face. He did not wipe them. Maria stood beside him. "He tried to tell you," she said. Richard nodded. "I kept choosing silence," he said. "You listened." Night came. Lily stood at the living room doorway, unsure if she was allowed. Richard sat on the sofa, hands open on his knees, body still. Lily whispered, "Why?" Richard answered, "Because I was broken and I believed the wrong people." Lily said, "I slept outside. I was scared." Richard swallowed. "I can't change those nights," he said. "But I can change the next ones." Lily touched Ethan's hair. "He waited," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "I waited." On Saturday, Richard sat with them in the garden. No phone, no work. He pointed to the swing. "Your mother loved this place," he said. Lily whispered, "I remember a song." Richard hummed a simple tune. Lily leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. Ethan leaned back. Richard said, "I will not lose you again." Lily looked at him for a long time. Then asked, "Can we stay, both of us?" Richard answered, "Yes." Lily breathed out like a long weight fell off. That night, Ethan slept in his bed. Lily slept across the hall, door unlocked for the first time. Richard sat on the carpet between the rooms. Back to the wall, listening. Maria walked past with a blanket and placed it over his shoulders. Richard whispered, "Thank you." Maria whispered back, "Keep listening." In the dark, Ethan's sleepy voice drifted out clear. "Mommy," he said. Then he added, "Safe." Richard closed his eyes and held the blanket tight. Because for the first time in years, that word did not hurt him. It guided him home. As the days turned into weeks, the house began to transform in subtle ways. Richard, who had once filled his hours with bored meetings and endless calls, now carved out time each morning to sit with the children over breakfast. He learned to prepare simple meals himself. Toast with jam, fresh fruit sliced just right, not because he had to, but because he wanted to show them he could be more than a distant figure. Maria watched this change with quiet approval, guiding him gently when he fumbled, reminding him that small acts built trust over time. Ethan, who had been so locked in his routines, started to explore new words, encouraged by Lily's presence. She, in turn, began to share fragments of her past in whispers during their playtime in the garden. "I hid in places," she would say softly, as they swung together on the newly repaired swing. "People didn't see me." Ethan would nod, understanding in his own way, and reply with, "Safe now," a phrase that became their shared mantra. Elena Voss returned frequently, updating Richard on the investigation. The hospital records were unraveling thread by thread. Marcus Hale, the nurse, had vanished, but leads pointed to a network of falsified documents, perhaps tied to illegal adoptions or worse. Richard hired additional security, not obtrusive guards, but discreet measures to ensure the estate remained a sanctuary. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden hues over the garden, Richard gathered everyone in the study. He spread out old photo albums he had long kept hidden, pages filled with images of his late wife, smiling, pregnant, full of life. "This is your mother," he told the twins, his voice steady but emotional. Lily traced the photos with her finger, tears welling as memories stirred. Ethan pointed to one picture and said, "Mommy there," but this time, it was with a smile, not desperation. Maria's role evolved too. She became more than a maid, she was a confidant, a bridge between Richard's world of wealth and the children's fragile realities. She taught Lily simple tasks around the house, not as chores, but as ways to feel included, folding linens, watering plants. These moments built bonds, and Lily's guarded expressions softened day by day. One rainy afternoon, when thunder rattled the windows, Lily hid under her bed, trembling. Ethan crawled in beside her, holding her hand silently. Maria found them and joined, telling stories of her own childhood storms until the fear passed. Richard watched from the doorway, learning patience in these quiet crises. The investigator uncovered more: a hidden fund transfer from the hospital to an offshore account, linked to Hale. Elena filed motions, building a case not just for custody but for justice. Richard testified in private hearings, confronting his past neglect. "I failed to question," he admitted to the judge, "but I won't fail them now." The court granted temporary guardianship, with full adoption proceedings underway. Celebrations were small. A picnic in the garden, where Ethan and Lily chased butterflies, their laughter echoing like music long silenced. Yet challenges lingered. Lily had nightmares, waking screaming about the bad place. Therapy sessions began, gentle and paced, with a specialist who understood trauma. Ethan joined sometimes, his presence calming her. Richard attended too, unpacking his grief. Maria supported them all, her steady kindness the glue holding the family together. As months passed, the black sedan incident ceased, the culprits exposed as hospital affiliates trying to cover tracks. Arrests followed, bringing closure. In time, the family ventured out, a trip to the zoo, where Ethan marveled at animals, Lily held Richard's hand tentatively. Back home, the tall window became a place of fond memory, not pain. Richard installed a bench there, where they sat together, watching sunsets. "We found each other," he would say. Ethan and Lily, now inseparable, replied in unison, "Safe." Dear viewers, this story is not just about a billionaire, a maid, and a child. It is about what happens when a human being is crying for help in the only way they know and the world keeps walking past. Ethan did not have big speeches. He did not have perfect words. He only had one small finger on a window and one sentence he repeated every day. And for years, people called it nothing. They called it a habit. They called it a symptom. And they ignored the meaning inside it. But Maria showed us something powerful. She did not force him. She did not shame him. She did not drag him away. She simply stopped. She listened. And she followed the truth with care. This story teaches us that some people speak with words. And some people speak with actions, with routines, with small signs. And if we do not pay attention, we can miss something life-changing. It teaches us that children, especially children with special needs, are not empty. They are not confused for no reason. Many times they are trying hard to explain what their heart is carrying. It also teaches us that pain can make adults shut down like Richard did and hide behind work, pride, or silence. But healing starts the moment we choose to face the truth and show up with love. Another lesson is this: kindness is not always loud. Sometimes kindness is just being present, being patient, and treating someone like they matter. Maria did not save that family with money. She saved them with attention, courage, and a simple heart. And because of that, a missing child found her way back home. A father became a real father again. And a boy who was ignored became understood. To expand on these lessons, let's delve deeper. Imagine the weight Ethan carried, day after day, pointing to that spot. His body knew something his words couldn't fully express. In our own lives, how many times have we dismissed a child's repetitive behavior as mere quirk, without probing gently for the story beneath? Maria's approach, kneeling down, following his gaze, reminds us that empathy begins with curiosity, not assumption. Richard's journey highlights the dangers of unprocessed grief. He built walls of wealth and routine to shield himself, but those walls isolated him from his son. Healing required vulnerability, admitting mistakes, and rebuilding brick by brick. Lily's resilience, surviving alone, teaches us about the strength of children, but also the scars of abandonment. Her slow trust building with the family underscores that recovery isn't linear. It's filled with setbacks, like her attempts to run, yet persistence pays off. Furthermore, the systemic failures, the hospital's cover-up, speak to broader issues of accountability in institutions. Richard's pursuit of justice not only reunited his family but exposed wrongs that might help others. Alina's role shows the importance of expert allies in navigating complex systems. Maria, as an outsider, brought fresh eyes, proving that change often comes from unexpected sources. In extending this tale, consider the ripple effects. The staff, once distant, now engaged more warmly. Neighbors whispered, but the family stood strong. Years later, Ethan and Lily thrived, their bond unbreakable. Richard, transformed, founded a foundation for lost children, turning pain into purpose. Maria remained, a cherished part of the family, her wisdom guiding them. Now, dear viewers, I want you to comment below. Tell us where you are watching from and tell us what you learned from this story. Your words might touch someone else who needs hope today. If this story moved you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you care about because you never know who needs this message. And if you want more stories from us, comment more stories. And you will be the first to get the next emotional stories we drop. Before you go, answer these 3 questions in the comments. 1. If you were Maria, What would you have done the first day you heard Ethan's words? 2. Do you think Richard was wrong for ignoring the signs for so long? Or do you understand his pain? 3. What is one small sign someone close to you may be showing right now that you should not ignore? Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay kind, stay alert, and never walk past a silent cry for help. To make this narrative even more immersive, let's revisit key moments with added depth. Recall the first night Maria saw Lily, the moon casting eerie shadows, the chill in the air amplifying every rustle. Ethan's forehead against the cold glass, his breath fogging it slightly, as if trying to bridge the divide. Richard's awakening was gradual. One scene where he alone reviewed the folder, tears staining the papers, confronting years of denial. Lily's arrival inside brought new dynamics. Her first bath, the wonder in her eyes at running water, shared meals where she learned table manners, Ethan patiently demonstrating. Therapy sessions revealed fragments. Lily in foster homes, escaping, drawn inexplicably to the estate, sensing her twin. Richard's apologies evolved into daily affirmations, building security. The DNA reveal day. Tension thick, envelope trembling in his hands, the collective breath held until confirmation brought cathartic release. Legal battles intensified, with court dates where Richard testified passionately, Elena arguing eloquently. Victories came. Full custody, hospital fines, Hale's arrest. Family outings multiplied. Beach trips, where waves washed away old fears, holidays celebrated with genuine joy. Ethan's vocabulary grew, Lily's confidence blossomed. Maria's backstory emerged, her own losses making her empathetic. The story's end, a family portrait by the window, symbolizing unity. This extended reflection emphasizes persistence in love, the power of listening, and redemption's possibility.